30 to me. We go through each and every Premier League game, and we're going to be reviewing each one in terms of looking at our prediction as well, which is 5 points for a completely correct scoreline, 1 point for a correct result, and the star man. Once you pick that man, you can't not pick them again for the rest of the season. 5 points for a goal, 2 points for an assist. And let's start off at the Amex Friday night football. Brighton 3, Chelsea 0. Sim went for 2-2. I went for 2-1 to Brighton, so I gain a point for this one. And yeah, I mean, Chelsea were completely dominated, weren't they? Mitoma was having all sorts of fun with the Chelsea backline, and Yakuba Minte as well, showing some brilliant stuff as well. So I think they just couldn't handle those two players in particular.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's talk about Mitoma goal. Oh, my word. What a touch from Mitoma. I think it's one of the touches of the season. That unbelievable pass from Verbruggen over the top. Mitoma is coming over his head, and somehow he's able to take... the ball's dropping over his head. Pause. It's dropping over his head, the ball. He takes an unbelievable touch, brings it down. It's an unbelievable finish. Maybe not... It's a quality goal, put it that way. It's a quality goal. But it's a great goal from Mitoma. But I think... what's that? Two wins for Brighton against Chelsea in a few days.
Yeah,
they couldn't really handle Brighton on the day, and I thought Chelsea really struggled again. And I think is it time to be worried a bit about Chelsea?
No, it's time to be excited.
Why? Oh, excited for us, yeah. But like Chelsea, they've cut their depth in January. Felix is gone, Mudrik's banned, Jackson's now injured, Madueke's now got a long-term injury. They've got injuries at the back line for Fana, Badiashile, long-term injuries in the back line. They can't seem to find a goalkeeper in Jorgensen or Sanchez. Both of them don't seem to be going great. James is continuously injured at right back. Caicedo's probably being overplayed at this point in central midfield. They've been relying on Cole Palmer for way too long. And he's now kind of not maybe at the level he was a few weeks ago. And now they're on 2 wins in 10, I think, in the Premier League. Like they're really struggling for a bit of form in the Premier League now as well. So with the Nkunku hasn't been doing it the whole season. Now they're relying on him to play up front, and Maresca saying he's not a 9. Their only other alternative is Mark Guehi, and Mark whatever his name is, and he's injured as well. So they can't even play him. So is there a fear that this run of form could continue for Chelsea?
Yeah, I think so. They've got Villa away next, which I can't really see them getting much out of. Then they're lucky they play Southampton and Southampton and Leicester in the 2 games after that. I think the alarm bells will start ringing if they don't get points in those 2 games. If they get only 3 points out of those 2 games, then yeah, the alarm bells got to start ringing. But in terms of where they're at, they're currently 6th in the league, still in touching distance of the top 4. But you look at Man City now starting to turn the corner. You look at Bournemouth, they're showing consistent results. Nottingham Forest, they're doing well. Newcastle and them are kind of flattening to deceive a little bit. But I kind of trust Newcastle a bit more than I trust Chelsea at the moment. So Chelsea are in big danger of not getting...
the thing is,
Europa League or Champions League.
If they lose to Villa, all of a sudden Villa are a couple points behind them. Fulham could I don't know if Fulham got next, but if Fulham win as well, all of a sudden, before they know it, they could be 8th or 9th before they know it.
Yeah.
That's how tight the league is. So obviously they do have those 2 games against Leicester and Southampton. They have to win those games. But right now they just seem a team that are they're struggling at the moment. And I think I know they're 6th and they're still right in there for the top 4. But the pressure might still be building, because if they finish below 6th, what justification at that point do they have for sacking Poch, who finished 6th?
I don't think there was a justification to sack Poch, because I think what Poch was doing, he had a really poor first half of the season, but then he started to get it together in the second half. And we all know the way Poch implements his system, it's going to take some time, particularly with the squad that they had there at that moment in time. So I think Poch, towards the end of the season, was actually showing really good form. I think apart from that loss against Arsenal where they got absolutely demolished 5-0, they actually were on really good form, weren't they, at the back end of the season?
They won their last 5 games, didn't they? They only lost 2 in their last 14 or something.
That's what I'm saying. They were actually on really good form. And then Maresca came in and started really well, but now they're back to what they were kind of the first part of the season with Poch. And Maresca, whatever you want to say about him, or whatever you want to say about the good form that he had at the start of the season, this is not. I mean, it is a bit dissimilar because Leicester were top of the league and they were smashing everyone, but Leicester had a great first half of the season and they completely dropped off a cliff second half of the season, just about got automatic promotion.
Yeah, but for me, it's more the injuries that are tossing up now, and it's like, if I'm looking for how this turns around, they need Nkunku to really step up now, because he's not, let's be honest, I know he's been injured, but he's been a massive disappointment in Nkunku. Everyone expected a lot better from him since he's come to Chelsea, and when he's been on the pitch, apart from those some Conference League games, he just hasn't done it at all. So they need him, I think, in this period to really step up and start getting some goals. Because if he doesn't, I'm struggling to see because the other players seem to be off form at the moment. I think with their defence as well, I'm not convinced at all with their defence and the injuries they have and their play. He's injured for a while, and
that's the problem with Fofana. You just can't keep him fit.
So I think Chelsea, this reform could continue. And we were talking about them in a title race not that long ago, and now all of a sudden we're saying they could be 8th or 9th if they're not careful.
Yeah. Do you think if he does finish below 6th, he'll lose his job at the end of the season?
If he wins the Conference League, maybe he'll just about keep him in, even though it's expected.
The thing is, like any manager at Chelsea would have won the Conference League this season.
No, I agree. I'm just saying it'll probably just be enough to say, look, I won a trophy, and depends. If he finishes I think if he finishes 8th or 9th, I think there'll be massive pressure from the fans to sack him, because that's what they did with Poch. So I think there'll be big pressure. Will the board do it? If he wins the trophy, will the board just have enough justification to keep him? Maybe, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. But you know what they're like. They'll probably sack him. Even with that justification. But I just want to see their bench and see how poor it actually is. And it is fairly poor, to be honest. A lot of players in there I don't even know. That Tyreek George, when he came on, I actually quite liked the look of him. But Dewsbury Hall, they brought in the summer. He can't really get a look in. Reece James is there. Jadon Sancho is flattering to deceive a little bit at the moment. Yeah, there's not really much to go on there. The bench, is there?
Yeah, I think they're struggling. I'm just saying the injuries they have as well. If they get a few more of those, all of a sudden they could be struggling. Because Madueke, who's been a good player, and he's now injured for a while. Yeah. So all of a sudden they have to play these other players, and they're going to be in a similar situation, I think, soon to what we were.
Let's go to the King Power. Leicester 0, Arsenal 2. Sim went for 2-0. I went for 1-0. So Sim gets 5 points. I get 1 point. And it was a bit of a poor game up until the final 10 minutes, really, when Marino came on as a makeshift striker, got them 2 goals and got them out of trouble, really, because Arsenal were really poor. The only player that seemed to have anything about him, really, was the 17-year-old Ethan Nwaneri. Apart from that, they just couldn't find a way to hurt Leicester at all.
And Leicester looked like they could have got a goal.
Yeah, Leicester... I thought both teams didn't really look like scoring, to be honest. I thought it was going to be 0-0, and they really got out of jail with Marino coming off the bench and saving their blushes.
Yeah, and I think, obviously, Arsenal are looking to hang in there in that title race while they've got all these players out, and they need to keep winning these games. But off the back of that performance, I know they won, and they just about got over the line. It wasn't a convincing performance at all, and you're playing against one of the worst probably teams in the league and one of the most open defences at the moment under Ruud van Nistelrooy. And fair enough, you got the win. They got the 2-0 win, and they had to grind it out. But it didn't. I don't think many Arsenal fans would have watched that and held much confidence that playing like that is going to keep them in the title race. Even with Liverpool having tough games, you wouldn't be surprised if they drop points alongside them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's the worry for them, because they're still 7 points behind at the moment. And as much as it's not 9, and they're trying to stay in there, you're still catching up 3 games for Liverpool, and that means even can I see Arsenal just going on this winning run with the way they're playing? And this is more evidence of poor play, I think. And yeah, I thought before those last 10 minutes, it just didn't look like breaking the deadlock, and it was destined for 0-0, it looked like, at that point. But they got the goal, and fair enough. And maybe they'll keep plugging away and they'll keep getting goals like this. But I think their luck might run out soon.
Yeah, I agree with that. And you're looking at these 2 goals from Marino in the last 10 minutes, right? So it's either 2 clutch goals that can be a springboard to going on a good run, or it's papering over the cracks. And I definitely think it's the latter.
Definitely.
Next up,
but from Leicester's point of view, they're just they're just losing every week, aren't they? I mean, apart from beating us, like, I know they're still 2 points behind Wolves, but I can't see them staying up. I really can't.
I think relegation's done, to be honest. I think Wolves have got something about them. The other three, not really. Next up, we go to Villa Park. Villa 1, Ipswich 1. Sim went for 2-1 to Villa. I went for 3-1 to Villa. And one of us should have got a 5 pointer this week. We really should have, because Ipswich go down to 10 men in the first half. They take the lead. I think in the second half, was it? They took the lead, or it might have been the end of the first half?
They took the lead in the second half with 10 men.
Yeah, so it was in the second half. And Villa had more than enough chances to turn around this game and to put the game to bed, but they just couldn't finish their dinner, really.
I think they got punished for maybe thinking as soon as Ipswich went down to 10 that the game was won, because I thought they were actually quite poor for that in that first half, and they didn't actually play that well. Ipswich weren't offering that much threat either, but I thought Villa were kind of really not doing enough to win the game, and I think Ipswich were fairly comfortable. Then they went down to 10 men, and they probably thought, okay, we're easily going to go and win this game, and they just let their guard down for a second, allowed Liam Delap to score, and all of a sudden they just gave themselves that bit too much to do. And yes, they got the goal back. It was a really great free kick from Rashford, hit the post, and Watkins get the rebound. But they missed a flurry of chances late in the game, and they got punished for letting their guard down, letting Delap score when they had 10 men, and that's pretty unforgivable when a team down the bottom like that are down to 10, and you're allowing them to take the lead like that. That should never be the case. And in the end, it's a really poor result for Aston Villa. They're now winless in 4 in the Premier League. Aston Villa. There is 3 draws and a loss, but they are winless in 4 despite beating Spurs in the Cup, and they've also got mounting injuries in the centre-back position, and they're currently 9th in the table. So it'll be interesting if they go out of the Champions League, depending on they get in the round of 16, and this form continues in the league. I wonder if they'll start to be question marks over Unai.
I think it's a massive opportunity for them in the FA Cup this year with the teams that have gone out so far.
True.
You're looking at, who are their biggest threats? You've got Man City, you've got Newcastle. I think it's between them 3, really.
Forest, I guess.
Yeah, and you've got to put Forest in there as well. But, they've got a real chance.
For sure. But, yeah, the injuries are mounting, seems, at the back for them. So I wonder if, their form will start to slide until they get some defenders back.
Yeah, well, we'll see about that. But let's move on to Fulham against Nottingham Forest. And Fulham get over the line with a 2-1 win. Sim went for 1-1. I went for 2-1 to Forest. Didn't see much of this game, but Smith Rowe back at it. I mean, Silva was talking a lot about Smith Rowe in the build-up to this game, saying, you're going to see the real Smith Rowe now. And within 15 minutes, he scored a goal. Chris Wood, what a goal he scored. 37 minutes gone to level it up. Great footwork, and managed to find himself some space in the box to put it in the back of the net. I mean, we say it every week, but what a season this guy is having.
It did take a deflection, but fair enough. It was quick feet and had to get the shot off quickly. His conversion rate is incredible. It's actually the best in Premier League history. His conversion rate, yeah, it's like 40%. It's like ridiculously high, which goes to show, I think, what an amazing season he's had. But also goes to show that it's probably an outlier season. But everything he touches seems to be getting in the back of the net. He's just on 18 Premier League goals for him now. 18 for Chris Wood. What world we live in.
34 years of age.
Crazy. But fair play to him. He's having a wonderful season. But Fulham, adapted the game plan, and I thought played really well and deserved the victory. Had more chances. They were the ones on top, and a second poor away performance from Forest, I think it's fair to say, after losing 5-0 to Bournemouth. They've lost 2 of their last 3 now. But there's a 7-0 win against Brighton in between there. So
yeah.
Not going to say they're slowing down, but is there evidence of the form starting to slow down? Maybe, potentially.
Well, the big question is that will they finish in this top 4, top 5 for the Champions League spots?
Well, right now, as well as they've done, they're only 4 points away from Chelsea in 6th, so still very tight. That could change very quickly. And as I've said, I still think they're going to go on a run where their luck's going to run out a bit, and they're not going to be winning all these games as they were. And they will go on a run where they drop points in 4 or 5 games in a row.
Well, their run in the next 4 games are Newcastle away, Arsenal at home, Ipswich at home, and Man City at home.
Oh, there you go. It's probably going to be this run.
Difficult run, but I back them to do something at Arsenal against Arsenal at home.
Yeah, sure. I think they're capable of getting results in all those games. I'm just saying I think there's a chance that as well their form maybe their run catches up with them a bit, and I think maybe they will start to see them drop a few points and get really dragged in, because they looked a shoo-in at one point for top 3, but I don't think they're going to be assuring anymore. I think they're going to be in a dogfight for that top 5.
Yeah, particularly with the resurgence of this next team that we're going to be talking about. That is Manchester City, as they battered Newcastle by 4-0. We both went for 2-2, and Newcastle just got blown away in the opening half an hour, really. Omar Mamouche, announcing himself to the Man City fans, a hat-trick with inside, 33 minutes? Some great finishing ability. On top of that, with some great ball playing ability from the goalkeeper Ederson, which I think he makes it his 6th or 7th assist for Manchester City, which is unbelievable from a goalkeeper. But yeah, Omar Mamouche I can't believe what I saw from him. It was unbelievable in terms of his movement, the way he's so quick off his feet, and he just catches defenders out. And that's something I did notice in his first game for Manchester City, where he didn't really, he didn't put the ball in the back of the net in that game. But this game it all kind of clicked for him, and it kind of just took Haaland took a lot of the kind of, when you've got him and Haaland together, it's just an unbelievable kind of duo, because Haaland just takes so many defenders with him, and then it just leaves so much space for someone like Mamouche.
Yeah, I predicted he'd be the new Julian Alvarez. He'll just play that position. That's exactly what he's doing, and he's just floating around on the edge of the area, kind of exploiting the space that everyone gets drawn to Haaland. And to keep Haaland quiet, you need to give him extra attention. And when they do that, it's going to leave space for the likes of Mamouche to operate in. And I thought he exploited it absolutely ruthlessly. Brilliant. Bit of thinking by Ederson for the first goal to go long and go direct to Mamouche, and he's kind of out-muscled Trippier and lobbed Dubravka, was it, for the first goal, or Pope, one of the keepers who was in goal for Newcastle. And Dubravka, he just went from strength to strength, and the second goal was a beautiful finish in the near post. And I thought the third goal, good movement, but I thought it was, straight out the keeper. He probably could have done better there. But what a player, what a signing. I think he's going to turn out to be a phenomenal signing for Man City.
Mido doesn't miss.
He doesn't. He looks like he's found another absolute gem. And I think you add in, apparently, Nico Gonzalez was absolutely phenomenal in this game. Pep calling him a mini Rodri. And maybe we're seeing a resurgence of Man City. The only problem for Man City is they're 16 points behind Liverpool. So they're not going to make a late charge for the league. And the problem for them is they're 3-2 down at Madrid. So I think they got a good chance of the Champions League if they can get through that tie. But at the moment, it's 50-50. They're losing 3-2. They've got to go to the Bernabeu and they've got to win. So if they go out of that tie, all of a sudden, you're probably looking at only the FA Cup to play for.
Yeah, it's true. But this Real Madrid team this season is not exactly, as strong as they have been in previous seasons. So I do think there's an opportunity for them to go to the Bernabeu and actually take something. The way
they've got to do it,
yeah, they've got to do it, obviously. But the way they lost it in the first leg must have been bitterly disappointing for them. And look, I think Nico Gonzalez is going to be a massive, massive player for them until Rodri's back, and Rodri's nearly back, I believe. So,
well, if he, nearly,
yeah. Well, they added. Well, I think he'll be back in the next month or month and a half.
I'll be surprised if that's the case.
Well, they added him into the Champions League.
Yeah, but I think that's for like a semi-final or something.
You reckon?
I don't know if he's going to be back anytime soon. But look, they did add him in, so maybe he's ahead of schedule. But look, in terms of City, if they can still win the Champions League, then they can shut up a lot of people, I think, and it'll really set them up from like a building block for next season.
Yeah, that's the main thing, isn't it? The building block for next season. That's the main thing, and I think they were smart in the January transfer window. They brought in really good players, and I think it's going to stand them in really good stead for the second half of the season. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think they signed smartly. I said a few months ago that these problems that they have are going to continue unless they address them in the window, and they have. And I think they're now going to go on a good run. That's what a proper club do. They address things in the transfer window when they need to do it. And Man City were pretty much the only ones that did it to a good level in this January transfer window. Let's move on. Southampton 1, Bournemouth 3. And we both went for 3-1 to Bournemouth. So 5 pointers for both of us. Bournemouth kind of, stamping their authority early in this game, going 2-0 up fairly early on. It was one-way traffic up until 10 minutes into the second half, and Southampton had a bit of a flurry, got a goal back, but then Bournemouth killed the game. Yeah, I think pretty simple day for Bournemouth. I think they were probably guilty of allowing the game to nearly get away from them in the second half because they were so in control. It was almost too easy for them. By the way, Ryan Christie, what a season he is having. Scored a brilliant goal, and I think he's having a phenomenal season. I remember we had a Bournemouth fan on the channel. I saw a Bournemouth account saying he's a cross between Gattuso and Pirlo or something, like saying he's like an unbelievable, underrated midfielder. And the goal he scored yesterday was maybe proof of his quality, and brilliant goal on the weekend. And he's such a tenacious midfielder as well, but he marries that with decent passing range, and maybe he's one that goes under the radar a lot, Ryan Christie. But look, it was only Southampton, I guess. But again, even with the injuries, they're still going from strength to strength. I know it was Southampton, but you still need to win the game, and they won it fairly comfortably in the end. Southampton, we all know they're doomed at this point.
Yeah. West Ham 0, Brentford 1 at the London Stadium. Sim went for 2-1 to Brentford, so he gets a point. I went for 2-2. And yeah, it was an early goal for Kevin Sade 4 minutes in, and West Ham pretty much had no reply after that, and it ended up 1-0. I didn't see much of the game, but I saw the highlights. It didn't look like the greatest spectacle.
It seemed like a disappointing performance from West Ham, who struggle to really break down this Brentford team, who know how to defend and can defend quite well, especially when you're coming up against a West Ham team who are going to be a bit more open now. Potter's in charge. They're playing in a different way. They're still getting used to it. And I think Brentford really took advantage of it. And they got the early goal. And West Ham really struggled to hurt them, to be honest. And if anything, it looked like Brentford were going to get the second goal. And Mbeumo was giving them trouble. Wissa, Sharda. So I think poor day for West Ham. But it's still, teething problems for them under Graham Potter.
Yeah.
They actually haven't been that great.
No, very poor results under Graham Potter so far for West Ham. But what I would say is that Evan Ferguson started on the bench and he came on in the second half, and he was the one that actually started asking more questions of the Brentford defence. So maybe that's something to cling on to, I guess. Next up, we are going to look at Crystal Palace 1, Everton 2, and the Moyes train keeps on rolling. Sim went for 2-0. I went to 1-0 to Crystal Palace. And what an unbelievable result again for Everton on the back of that draw in the last minute against Liverpool in the last Merseyside derby at Goodison. Both of us were saying in the previews to this, how are they going to keep going? They're going to be running on empty. They put so much effort into that Liverpool game. And Beto, the man just can't stop scoring.
Incredible. The man is on fire. Everyone thought he was a completely striker who couldn't do it in the Premier League. But since Moyes has come in, he's really made the most out of him. And since Calvert-Lewin got injured as well, you've got to remember Calvert-Lewin scored against Spurs as well when he returned, and then he got injured. And Beto's come in and he's absolutely firing on all cylinders at the moment. They've also got the new guy Alcaraz, who I think has made a really positive impact since he's come to Everton. Came off the bench. I think the FA Cup looked brilliant, and came off the bench again on this one and scored the goal. Brilliant,
I like
brilliant winner. I thought, for Southampton he was quite good. I remember in that little spell when they signed him in January, and he had a really good end to the season. And it looks like Everton have picked him up, and he's looking like a really good signing. It was a weird one because I actually think Palace probably were worth something out of this game, and will probably feel a bit aggrieved that they didn't get any points. But Everton, they picked their moments when they could. They defended properly, and they ended up getting all 3 points. It's a brilliant win. Going to Palace in Selhurst Park is no mean feat, and getting the win, and very impressive from them. Yeah. And especially after the energy they put in on Wednesday to come up with that kind of performance, fantastic. And now Everton, any thoughts of relegation are now long gone. They're probably looking up at the moment under Moyes.
Yeah, absolutely. And not many points in it between me and you. 4 points is the gap. As we move on to Liverpool 2, Wolves 1. Sim went for 3-0. I went for 2-0. And Luis Diaz puts them 1-0 ahead pretty early on. They get a penalty. Mo Salah dispatches it with 20 minutes, with 40 minutes gone in the game. Do you think it was a penalty?
The first one, I think the first one probably, yeah. I think there was enough contact. He went down. I think there was enough contact on Diaz for the referee to point to the spot. I don't think it was massively controversial. And I think the second one was a clear dive. I don't know why Jota wasn't booked after the VA went to the screen, because there was no contact whatsoever, and it was a pretty horrible dive actually. So I don't know why the referee didn't end up booking him after looking at it in the screen, which he can do. You're allowed to do that if you've looked in the screen. So I think he's lucky. But I think Liverpool were probably worth a 2-0 lead at the time, but then second half they didn't have forget a shot on target. They didn't have a shot. They didn't have a single shot in that second half. I think Wolves really took control, and I know they had a goal ruled out from offside and a penalty cancelled, so that contributes to the lack of shots. But Liverpool almost thought the game was won, and they allowed Wolves to creep back into it. Konate as well was lucky not to be sent off.
How was he not sent off?
I don't know how he wasn't.
How was he not sent off? Because he's on a booking and he makes a foul that was worse than the first booking. I just don't understand it.
Lucky boy. It
That was a ridiculous decision, in my opinion. Ridiculous.
Terrible decision from the ref. And then Cunha gets a brilliant goal. And then that was 20 minutes ago, and you're thinking Wolves were really piling on the pressure. They had a few moments where Quanta had to make a last-ditch challenge, and they had a free kick on the edge of the bar. Well. Cunha. So Wolves were probably feel like in that based off the second half, they were well worth a point in this game. Liverpool got away with one. But Liverpool probably kicking themselves because they were well in control. They deserved the 2-0 lead, and they just allowed Wolves back in the game, and they'll be frustrated with that.
Yeah, I mean, Cunha, what a player he has. What a season he's having.
The goal he scored makes it look brilliant. So easy on his weak foot. 25 yards. What a player.
Such a good player. And whoever he ends up going to in the summer are going to be a very lucky team because he just keeps improving as the season goes. No matter, how poor or how good Wolves are, Cunha always keeps his standards up. And then last but not least, Tottenham against Manchester United, 1-0 at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Sim went for 3-1. I went for 2-1. So we both get a point on the board. It was dubbed the, what was it called?
El Crapico.
The El Crapico. And I think it did live up to his reputation, to be honest. I think Spurs were the better of the two teams. However, Man United did create some really presentable chances which they should have put in the back of the net. But from a Spurs perspective, good to see the injured players back. Maddison at it in the first half. Vicario put in a really good display. Jed Spence, obviously he wasn't injured, but he put in a man-and-match display. And the players coming off the bench. I mean, Udogie didn't get on the pitch, but Brennan Johnson and Wilson Odobert coming off the bench as well. So some good signs for Tottenham.
Yeah, and I think clearly the injured players coming back was a massive boost for Spurs. I think they looked more organised. I think the press looked a lot fresher and a lot more energetic. And I think the big players like Vicario and Maddison coming back into the team made a massive difference to Spurs. And I think that's what got them over the line in the end. I think Man United struggling with injuries, only had a bench of teenagers and they weren't able to really change the game and freshen things up, and that's probably what cost them, albeit they probably had enough chances to get an equaliser, but Spurs as well probably had enough chances to take the game away from Man United and make it 2 or 3-0. So I think both teams will feel like they could have scored more goals in this game, but I think overall Tottenham were just that little bit more organised and a little bit more kind of energetic, and that had that little bit more quality in this game. Wasn't that much in it, but I think Tottenham deserved the win, and they got the well-needed 3 points. Their first home win since November, which is crazy to think about, and back above United now.
Yeah.
But with Man United, there's still questions about Amorim, and a lot of people complaining, a lot of people saying he needs to change it, he needs to do this, he needs to do that. The problem with Man United is they've had this poor run of form with a lot of players to choose from, and now they've got all these injuries. So how is this form ever going to do anything but get worse?
Yeah, I mean, does it really matter though? Like, if they're not realistically going to go down, unless you do think they're realistically going to go down, like what really does it matter too much?
Well, he's a Man United manager. Can he really finish, 15th, 16th, 17th? And is that going to be without becoming under serious pressure?
Yeah, I mean, he's got less points than Moyes has picked up for Everton already. Or one point in. I think he's got 1 point more or something.
That's crazy. And he picked up the job in November or October. Yeah. No, November it was. Yeah. It's nuts. He's on crazy bad form, and he's also getting frustrated. Look, I understand they want to give him time and all these things, and I would say that they should give him time. That would be the smart thing. But I'm saying I know the Premier League. I know being Man United manager, the pressure it comes with. And if he's, finishing around that spot, he's going to come under immediate pressure. And all of a sudden, a bad start to the season, next season, he could be gone. If they do keep him on, that is. And I think he does have to show that he can turn this form around, I think.
Yeah. Do you think there's a sense, though, like, with clubs wanting to give managers a bit more time? They gave Ten Hag probably more time than what his performance warranted. Spurs have probably given Ange Postecoglou maybe a bit more time than they would have given any other manager maybe in the past. And you look at Arsenal with Arteta as well, where they played through the bad times with him. So maybe they'll do the same with Amorim.
They might do. I mean, I'm just saying the only way to make sure you make it to next season is getting results, and he's leaving up to chance if he doesn't.
Yeah. And, last season, the thing that saved Ten Hag's job was winning the FA Cup. And they're still in the FA Cup, and they're in the Europa League as well. So
I know, but the way they're playing and the players they've got out injured now, long-term injuries, Ahmad, their best player, missing for the rest of the season. They've got Ugate's picked up an injury. They've got Mainu, apparently he's going to be missing for a few weeks with a poor injury, with a bad injury. Big players for them are now missing with injuries. So now they've literally, yesterday they only had 11 players and the rest were what's called academy players. So their players are going to, they're still in Europa League and they're in the FA Cup. Their players are going to be playing quite very often and every 3 days and all these things. So they're going to have tired players. They're going to have not good enough players. They're going to have players getting used to the system. They could they go on a similar run to what we just went on now? And they're not even that far off in terms of their run of points right now. So I think if I was the board, I'd be like, yeah, I understand the situation and we'll judge you next season, but there's no guarantees they do that.
Yeah, I think they will. I do think they will, but we'll see. We'll see. We've seen managers sacked for less, that's for sure, but we'll see what happens. But let's move on to the star men. We went for a Bournemouth head-to-head. Usually when we do that, none of them get any goal contributions. They rarely even play. But this time, they both started. Justin Kluivert against Dango Utara. Dango scored after about 10 minutes in the game, and Justin Kluivert responded with an assist for Ryan Christie's goal not long after that. So Sim gets 2 points, I get 5 points, and we end up 237 to Sim, 244 to me, and Sim cuts the gap by 1 point from last week.
7 points, 2 points, because it was 9, now it's 7. I think.
Was it 9 last week?
I think so. Anyway, we'll cut the gap. That's the most important thing.
That is the most important thing. But we move on, and we'll be back on Thursday for another round of Predict the Prem. Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below. But I want to thank you all for joining us throughout. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always,